Hey, this is Heather Wong from Heather's Herps, and you're listening to Herp Herp Hooray.
It says here we should work in teams. I tend to think of myself as a one-man wolf pack.
You are about to enter Information Overload, a worldwide transmission with Herp Herp Hooray's featured Breeder of the Week. Here is your host, Jason Rossi.
I would like to welcome you back to Herp Herp Hooray, a weekly worldwide transmission. I'm your host, Jason Rossi. We are simulcasting on RossiReptiles.com, Buzzsprout, and don't forget to subscribe and download us on iTunes. This week's featured Breeder of the Week seems to have hit the jackpot on a new project, and not to mention his beautiful offspring he has available. I'm pleased to announce this week's special guest, Mark Petros from BallPython777.com. Mark Petros, Reptiles. Mark, welcome to Herp Herp Hooray.
Hey, Jason. How are you tonight?
I'm excellent. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule and coming and talk with us.
No problem. My pleasure.
Well, let's get right to it, man. Give us a little history and some background on that Blue Ghost project you got there.
Well, it was, obviously just came about by accident. We didn't know what was going on. It's actually a breeding loan I did with a good friend of mine, George Kanak of GLK Herp. And, I had a couple male honeybees, and I didn't want to produce a zillion honeybees, so I loaned one of them to him. And he took it to some het ghosts that he had, and this weird silvery gray thing came out, and after a few sheds it started looking more of like a bluish gray, and now at a little over a year old it's probably looking better than it's ever looked before in terms of being more blue, and it's just a real unique color, not necessarily the best ball python ever produced, but it's just a lot different than anything else that's out there. So we're not sure what's going on. If there's obviously if it's genetic, there was some extra gene that both the male and the female had and both hit on, in addition to being a ghost. So I don't know. Time will tell. The one we hatched was a female. We're going to have to raise her up, breed her back to the dad, and then see what happens. And hopefully it's not just a fluke that's not genetic, but that's a possibility as well. From some of the other people I've talked to and some of the people that saw it at the Tinley Park show in March, people were excited about it, and everyone was pretty much thought that it was genetic. But until I see some blue babies hatching out, I don't know.
So would this mean that it's compatible with other ghost lines if you had het ghost females?
Well, at least that one part of it would be compatible. The regular ghost part, whatever this other gene is, who knows? I just don't know.
Well, I can't wait to see it mixed in with some other morphs. I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, I just want to prove it genetic and hatch out one, and then if it is indeed something genetic and something that we could reproduce, then anything you do with a ghost or an ultramel or any sort of color mutation, we can mix it in with all these other pattern mutations and make mix it in with super stripes and genetic stripes and tri-stripes and pinstripes and spiders and anything that has a pattern we could put with this, and it'll be outrageous.
So have you sold some of the offspring that the siblings to these?
No, not really. It was kind of awkward how it all came about, because that male honeybee was bred to like 4 different het ghost females, and my buddy was in the process of moving, and we weren't really sure what this thing was, and it was in a shed when I got it, and some of the offspring kind of got commingled. So I couldn't really definitively say that this was this or this was that. I've got stuff that I know are definite, at least half siblings, with the same father, but I couldn't definitively say if it was from the exact same clutch. So I didn't want to market anything as, possible head for this or that, but, I did have some stuff that was, fathered by the same, the same father. So depending on how you want to look at it.
How big is this girl now, would you say about?
She's, she's not giant that I'm going to try to breed her at 18 months, but she's certainly not a little picky, finicky eater either. She's about, 850, 900 grams. So, she's doing fine. Should be able to go about a year from now, November of, 2013 is probably when we'll start breeding her, and hopefully spring we'll get some babies.
Well, I wish you luck on that endeavor.
Thank you.
So let's talk about that yellow-bellied firefly, man. That's an outstanding combo. I mean, definitely must-have for collectors and breeders out there.
Yeah, that's turned out really good. The firefly yellow belly and the superfly males I had, and I bred them to a couple different things and hit on some cool combos. It was just kind of weird, a few years ago I didn't really even pay that much attention to a fire gene, and Brock Wagner was, I was talking with him, and back then it was like there weren't even hardly any fireflies out there, and he goes, I got this male fire and I'm not sure what to do with it, and he goes, you got a bunch of pastels. He goes, you want to do a breeding loan? And I go, okay. And he gave me this fire, and I put it with a couple pastels, and we hit on a handful of fireflies, and I think we produced 6 of them, and they were all males, and me and him were like so happy. We're like, all right, we got fireflies, and we each took 3 male fireflies and raised that up and, did some other projects with it. And it was just kind of weird that something that, just like a casual conversation, hey, do you want to take this fire? Yeah, what the heck, I don't mind. And, it turned into firefly yellow bellies and butterflies and ultra flies and dragonflies and fire ghost. And, I just thinking back that, all these combos and doubles and triples and quadruples, all just came from, like a casual afterthought of a breeding loan. So worked out well for both of us, and I know Brock's made, tons of cool things over there as well.
It all starts with an idea. That's it.
Yeah, it starts with something and just keeps going. And I really like that fire gene and what it does, and it mixes well with stuff.
Are you shooting for any super fires, or are you just trying to mix the fire into other combos?
It wouldn't be bad for me to have a super fire. I didn't really try to produce any this year, but I probably will try to produce some next year, just to have that other white snake and just to have the super form, when you're mixing stuff, to know you're not going to miss on it or to leave anything to chance. And then, some of the other stuff, I've picked up some, Orange Dream stuff and Super Vanilla stuff. So, I mean, there's, Enchies and Super Enchie stuff I've got chances on, and all that stuff hasn't been put into the Firefly Yellow Belly stuff. So, I mean, it looks great how it is, but I just saw mixing it with Pinstripe and mixing it with butter, some of the crazy things we got there. But there's, just, I don't know, with the ball pythons in general, there's a million things you could do with everything. You just keep adding and adding and making it brighter and more contrast and more outrageous and cleaner, and there's just so many more steps and layers to go into.
Well, speaking of the Super Vanilla, I was watching one of your videos earlier, and that thing does get better with age, because you wouldn't even notice that was Super Vanilla as a hatchling or, a little juvie. But, man, that thing is just so bright, it screams.
Yeah, that's a good thing with the Super Vanilla. Vanillas will lighten up, but the Super Vanilla is just outrageous. They look nice as babies, but, morphs that get better and lighter and brighter as they age. I really like that. Because, it's a business, but you're a hobbyist, and I'm doing it because I love the animals, and to go down there and open that drawer and just see this thing glowing like you dipped it in a nuclear reactor or something, I'm like, that's cool. And every time I open the cage to look at these Super Vanillas, I just really get excited about some of the things we could do with them.
And then just something so simple as vanilla and fire. You get the vanilla creams. Those things are outstanding also. They're just... Yeah,
just 2 simple genes, to make a vanilla cream. And then, the Vanilla Scream and Vanilla Dream, and these are just even not too complicated triple morphs, but just adding Pastel or Yellow Belly, just outrageous, really, really cool looking animals and super popular, and I think it's a really, really good thing to work with. Hi, this is Mark Petros, and you're listening to Herp Herp Hooray.